So some of the most common mistakes that new hikers and folks who are visiting the state make is first and foremost not telling people where they're going. Again, it's important for people to know where you're going to be and when you're going to be there. If only in case you get in trouble, someone can call someone else and have a general idea of where you are. A lot of times folks will get out and lost in the woods because they're not prepared for that area and they haven't told anybody, and a lot of people who aren't found in the woods aren't found because people don't know where they're going. And again, that can be very easily solved. You text someone what trail you're going to go to. You text people what time you're going to be there, what time you're going to be done, and you spread that maybe more than just one person, but make sure that someone knows where you're going at all times. You can hike alone or you can hike with people. Anything in the outdoors is usually good for you to have another person with you, but especially if you're by yourself, make sure someone knows where you're going, make sure someone knows where you are. Another mistake that hikers typically make is, again, wearing the wrong clothing. Wearing jeans, again, like I said, is not going to be super comfortable. Wearing a cotton t-shirt with a graphic on it's not going to be comfortable when you're sweating throughout the day, especially if it starts getting cold. So wearing appropriate clothing and having warm clothing with you. So when you're hiking up in the high country in the summertime, while there might not be any snow in the front range anymore, there might be a couple feet of snow still on top of those peaks. So if you hike up there wearing sandals and shorts and a tank top and you have no other warm clothes and you get hurt or lost somehow, that's not going to be a good day. It's going to be a lot cooler up there, so you need to be prepared. You can hike in sandals, you can hike in shorts, and I'm not saying that you can't, but having things to keep you warm afterward is crucial. We want to prevent you from getting hypothermia, we want to prevent you from having any toes or anything lost by frostbite. Another mistake that folks will make again is not wearing proper footwear. I remember when I worked at a park before I had my current job, there was a school group that was out hiking, and one of the students fell and twisted her ankle pretty bad. And we responded and we actually had to carry her out of there because it was so bad. And a couple of weeks later, we had another person who was relatively new to hiking who did break their ankle back in the backcountry. She was not wearing proper footwear. So wearing proper footwear is important, right? Sometimes when you're a couple miles in and you're with a friend and something happens, maybe they can carry you out or maybe they can't. So it's better to err on that safe side, wearing the appropriate footwear and appropriate clothing. Another common mistake that new hikers and tourists make is getting too close to wildlife. Now, as a wildlife officer, your safety and the animal safety is crucial. Wildlife do not generally like people, and wildlife, especially with young, are not going to be particularly friendly. If you pay attention to the news, there's always someone who's getting too close to a moose cow and her calf who gets attacked by that moose, or someone who gets gored by a bison in Yellowstone National Park, or someone who gets too close to a grizzly bear and her cubs. It's important to keep your distance from wildlife. When you're out hiking, you are going to be causing disturbance in the woods. That's just how it goes, especially if you're being incredibly loud, but you are going to be causing disturbance. That's going to be impacting that wildlife when you're out there. Every trail is going to be impacted. Sometimes less traffic trails will have more wildlife because they are less disturbed. Other times, very busy trails won't have as much wildlife activity, and so you're not going to see the same number of animals. But it doesn't matter if you're on a heavily trafficked or light traffic trail. If you see an animal in front of you, you want to give it proper distance. Again, things like a moose, they can be quite docile until they're not docile anymore. So keeping your distance, a good general rule of thumb is to look at an animal and put your thumb on that animal. If the animal is bigger than your thumb, you're too close. If it's smaller than your thumb, generally you're in a good space, but typically you want as much space as possible. And truthfully, if you do get into a scenario where you do see an animal, like a moose or an elk or a deer or a bear out in the wild, you might want to watch it for a while. So having that distance is going to keep you safe and them safe, and you'll actually be able to see potentially some of their natural behavior as opposed to them being skittish. With that as well, We do not often have mountain lion attacks or bear attacks in Colorado, but they do happen, and they have happened the last handful of years. People are generally not prepared to handle those sort of contacts with that wildlife. So it's important that you know how to handle that beforehand. One way to have that, of course, is if you're out hiking and you see a bear. Generally, the black bears that we have in the state of Colorado, because we do not have grizzly bears as far as we know, they're generally not going to be bothering you. They're typically afraid of you. But if a black bear is getting aggressive, you want to get big, you want to get loud, you want to scare it off. Clapping at it works really well. You don't ever want to run from a carnivore. You don't ever want a child to run from a carnivore, and this is a good time to pick up a child if there is a bear or a mountain lion nearby. We don't want to trigger predator instincts. In the case that a black bear does attack, you do want to fight back. If you've ever heard about grizzly bear attacks, they often will say the opposite. Grizzly bear behavior and black bear behavior are quite different. Again, black bears are typically fairly docile and afraid of humans, but animals that are not afraid of humans, and especially black bears that are not afraid of humans, that's going to be a different scenario. You do want to fight back. That's why having a trekking pole can be nice, and more specifically, having bear spray is nice. Bear spray has capsaicin, same stuff that you're going to find in jalapenos and spicy peppers. Mammals did not evolve with capsaicin like birds did, so we get the effects of that burning sensation. So having that with you is a good tool. With mountain lions, we want to be firm with them, and we want to be big just like we would with bears, but we're not going to be making the same volume of sound, and we especially don't want to run away because that could trigger that prey response. Backing away slowly is a good thing to do while keeping your eyes on the animal for both black bears and for mountain lions. If a mountain lion does attack, it's the same thing as a black bear. You do want to fight back. Another common mistake that hikers make is not being aware of your surroundings. And that could either mean, again, you see wildlife that you weren't noticing before, or maybe you're not being respectful to other users on the trail and you're blasting music and you're blasting things that people don't want to hear, and you're kind of disturbing that peace out there. Or it could be you're not paying attention and then you slip on a rock that you did not expect and you fall down a cliff where you tumble down a ledge. So it's important that you stay aware of your surroundings, keeping your head up, looking around, one, because you can enjoy the scenery, but two, really to keep yourself safe. Looking down, seeing where your feet are going, looking up and around, making sure you understand your surroundings is important. So always stay vigilant. Another big thing that hikers, new hikers and tourists make, a big mistake that they make, is not bringing enough water and not bringing food with them. You can go quite a while without having food, but having food with you is going to keep you motivated, it's going to keep you moving through your hike. Not having enough water is a big problem, again, because of dehydration. If it's a hot day outside, if you're dehydrated, you have an increased chance of having a severe dehydration event, which might lead to you getting hyperthermia, where you're getting too warm and then you're not able to cool yourself down, because the way that humans cool themselves down is naturally through sweating. But even in the cold as well, if you're dehydrated, you're not going to be your best self and in your best shape to handle those elements. So always having enough water and having a way to make more water in the case that you do need to make some more. Another big mistake that new hikers and tourists make is not having rain gear when they're out hiking. Again, Colorado storms can move incredibly quickly. Some storms can be pretty fast, some can be pretty slow, but especially in the high country where we do have a higher rate of precipitation, there is a better chance for you to get in a storm. Carry rain gear with you. It's lightweight. You don't want to get trapped up somewhere and you're soaking in your clothes, and then you're going to spend the night there, and then you're also soaking in your clothes, and maybe you're getting your sleeping bag wet. That's not going to do you any good. So make sure that you have your rain gear with you.
I hope we've inspired you to explore, and of course feel free to check out the links below for specific information on recreation resources, our guests, and our partners. Also, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Until we see you next time, be sure to wreck yourself.